Friday! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Scoreboard. Yes, it is time to talk about sports, all the sports, everything. We're going to talk about it all today. Actually, we do have to preview the high school football playoff round 4 games that are going on this weekend. Huff High School's in action, Hickory High School's in action. Lots of games coming up on this day. Today is Friday. Most of these games will kick off right around 7 p.m. tonight. So we are going to discuss them, get you guys caught up on who's playing, when, and where. Also, I have a little bit of information here about one of the NC Players of the Year who's going to be in action tonight against Huff High School. Faison Brandon of Grimsley High School is the 2024-2025 Gatorade North Carolina Football Player of the Year. At 6'4", 202, he threw for 2,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, and just 1 interception. 76% completion percentage and a 3.83 GPA. How about it? So Grimsley High School, they'll be taking on Huff High School. That's one of the games. We got a lot of them to go over. If you win this game tonight, and you're a high school football player, if you win tonight, you move on to the regionals, the Final Four, if you will. Only 4 teams would be remaining in the playoffs. You got to win 2 more after tonight to get that state title. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about high school football. Also, there's some developing news, not breaking news, but developing news with the NHL and the New York Rangers. I know there's a lot of people in the area that are transplants from the Northeast who are New York Ranger fans. If you're a fan of the Rangers, as I'm recording, by the way, this episode has been pre-recorded. No phone calls. I can't talk to you guys. I do apologize, but all the information is up to date as of the recording of this episode. I'm not going to be surprised if we talk about this New York Rangers situation, and by time the episode airs, he's already the conclusion of what's happening has already come. I wouldn't be surprised. But the New York Rangers and their captain Jacob Trouba have been having a pretty bad relationship here recently over the past couple of years, and it seems that it all has now boiled over. Jacob Trouba is scratched from tonight's game. He won't be playing due to roster management, which usually means a player is about to be traded. So we will talk a little bit about that as the New York Rangers once again are going to trade a captain. Again. They did it with McDonough. They did it with Callahan. I mean, Drury, they just bought him out, and that was the end of that. I guess you don't want to be a captain of the New York Rangers. We're also going to preview the NFL weekend. A lot of games coming up. A lot of big games coming up. And we did have a game last night as well, Thursday Night Football. I'll tell you what, as soon as I began really complaining about Thursday Night Football, all of a sudden we had a few really good games, including last night, the Packers and the Lions going down to the last second, literally the last second, as a game-winning field goal was kicked with zeros on the clock. We'll talk a little bit about that game because, man, I'll tell you what, Dan Campbell is one of the most interesting coaches in the NFL. I love him. I love his philosophy. I love what they do in Detroit. So we are going to talk a little bit about that. You also have the Panthers who are going to be in action on Sunday at 1 o'clock. They'll be on the road against the Eagles. The NBA Cup is going to begin next week. We're not going to spend too much time on that. We're going to start previewing the NBA Cup knockout stages next week because we also want to touch base with the NCAA. NCAA football conference championship weekend is upon us starting tonight, by the way. Yes, it starts tonight. There are 2 conference championship games tonight. UNLV plays Boise State for the Mountain West Championship, and Tulane plays Army for the AAC Championship. Now, there's another one tonight as well. The Conference USA Championship between Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State doesn't really have any bearing on the college football playoff, so we're not going to worry about it too much. And then on Saturday, we have the big slate of the big games. Man, there are some real important ones here. You could theoretically get knocked out of the playoffs for losing your conference championship. Like if Boise State loses as a 10 seed, they're probably out. They'll probably lose their rank. And you got to think that the teams that aren't playing are pretty much going to hold serve in the rankings. So that's where we're at in the college football scene. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And I do want to talk a little more of just general NHL news. And obviously, we're going to get into news from around the sports league, as there is a little bit of news. Randy Moss is in headlines recently. Unfortunately, it seems like he's got some health problems that'll be keeping him from being a broadcaster with ESPN. You have Bill Belichick making news. Bill, what are you doing, Belichick? Bill Belichick, a college football head coach? What? Is that a possibility? Why would Bill Belichick want to deal with NIL the way that college football is set up now? Why would Bill Belichick want to deal with that? I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. We'll talk a little bit about why he is in the news. But we're going to start with the high school football scene. I want to get into the 1A bracket where we have 2 games here on the west side of the state. Number 1, Mount Airy High School is going to be playing number 5, Corvian Community High School. Now, a reminder, Mount Airy, they won a soccer state championship not that long ago. And now they're in the 4th round here as the 1 seed in the 1A playoffs. So congratulations, Mount Airy, having a great fall sports season. Number 5, Corvian Community High School is the opponent. That game is at 7 p.m. at Mount Airy High School. In the 1A, you also have number 3, Murphy High School playing Mountain Heritage High School. That's a 2 versus a 3, by the way. Murphy number 3, Mountain Heritage number 2. Another 7 p.m. kickoff tonight. It'll be at Mountain Heritage High School. We're actually going to run out of time here on our first segment, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about what's going on in the high school football playoffs, and then we're going to jump a rank up, and we're going to get straight into that college scene, okay? So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We got a good program here lined up for you today. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. Segment 2 here on the scoreboard. No phone calls today. We have recorded this episode at an earlier time. Still being recorded on a Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Beautiful Friday at that. But not live. Recorded earlier in the day. So no phone calls, no interacting with you guys on X, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you guys watch the video stream and comment. By the way, if you didn't know, you can watch this program and every program on WSIC. You just got to download the app. Download the WSIC News app. You'll be able to watch all of our episodes, or if you don't want to download the app, which I don't know why you wouldn't want to download the app, download the app. But you can also pull us up on YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, pretty much everywhere. And also get the audio version as a podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I mean, what you can have us in your phone 24/7, whenever you want. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Just a beautiful thing. We're talking about the high school football playoffs that are going on tonight. We just finished talking about the 1A bracket. Now let's jump into the 2A bracket where we do not have the number 1 seed still alive. Our 1 seed in the 2A bracket actually got eliminated in round 2. Did not make it very far. That was Reedsville High School. So one of our matchups here in the west side of the state in the 2A bracket is number 9, Brevard High School, playing number 13, Forest Hills High School. That'll be a 7:30 start at Brevard High School. A little bit later than the 1A games are starting on this one, but a 7:30 start at least for this game. The other game in the 2A bracket is number 3, Monroe High School, traveling to Shelby High School, the 2 seed. A reminder, Shelby High School, they beat Community School of Davidson, CSD, in round number 3 to move on to this game. It'll be at Shelby High School's home field and another 7:30 kickoff. By the way, a reminder, the winners move on to the regionals, which is part of the Final Four in the high school football playoffs. We are getting down to it. State championship games are around the corner, and state champions are about to be named. Exciting time in high school football. The 3A bracket, just like the 2A bracket, does not have the number 1 seed on the west side of the state. That used to be Irwin High School, but they were shut out by West Charlotte. Man, I didn't expect that. I really did not, but that's the way it went. So number 8, West Charlotte, moving on to round 4 here. Their competition is going to be Dudley High School, the 5 seed. So a 5 versus an 8 on a 7 p.m. kickoff here in the high school football 3A bracket, again, on the west side of the state. Now, we're not talking about the east side of the state all that much. We normally don't get into that until we get to the regionals because they're nowhere near us. They're on the east side of the state. West side superior. Am I right? Am I right? I know I'm right. The other game in the 3A bracket is between a couple of schools that we probably know in this area. Number 3, Hickory High School will be hosting North Lincoln High School. And just a reminder for you, Hickory High School currently undefeated, and they are the best remaining seed in the 3A. So you have a 3 seed playing a 10 and a 5 playing an 8 in the 3A bracket. So possibility here for Hickory High School to repeat as state champions. It's up there. I do think that we should start taking that seriously. Moving on, last but not least, it is the 4A bracket. And like I mentioned, the number 1 seed Grimsley High School is in action with their quarterback, Fazian Brandon. He, by the way, reminder for you, the 2024-2025 Gatorade North Carolina Football Player of the Year. 2,100 pass yards, 27 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He is having a wonderful year. Wonderful year. Their opponent, Grimsley High School, is Huff High School, the 5 seed. 5 seed Huff High School, 12-1 on the year. Grimsley, by the way, they're having a very good year. They've yet to lose. And apparently, according to Match Preps, they're the number 3 ranked team in the state of North Carolina. Now, Huff High School, I don't know how these rankings come out, but apparently Huff High School is the 1 seed or the number 1 team in the state of North Carolina, even though they are the 5 seed in the bracket. I wish I could tell you I understood how that happens, but I don't. I don't understand it. It doesn't make much sense to me, at least. Huff High School's lost a game. Grimsley hasn't, and yet Huff High School's still in the state of North Carolina, ranked a little bit higher. This is going to be a great game, though. This one may be the game of the weekend, in my opinion. Grimsley High School versus Huff High School. The other game in the east side of the bracket, East Forsyth High School and Weddington High School, taking on a 2 seed, number 3 East Forsyth, number 2 Weddington High School. Both of the games in the 3A bracket are going to kick off at different times. So East Forsyth and Weddington will be the first game. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff. And then Grimsley and Huff is a 7:30 kickoff. Just keeping you guys up to date. That is your high school football round 4 playoff scene. We are getting to it. There's a few schools that are still in our listening area in the playoffs. Huff High School being one of them. Hickory High School right on the edge of our listening area. North Lincoln also right on the edge of our listening area. But we will, regardless of if they're in our listening area or not, we will talk about it because the high school football playoffs are still going on and we're getting close to the end. Let's go ahead and change gears a little bit. We're going to continue talking about football, but I want to get into college football. And I at least want to go over the schedule for the weekend because we do have 2 important, really 1, but 2 important conference championship games that are coming up tonight. Starting off with UNLV number 20 and Boise State number 10. You know, UNLV can find their way into the playoffs here. If they win, they can find their way in. By the way, did you guys see the commissioner of the Big 12 losing his mind because the group of 5 conferences were ranked higher than the Big 12? Oh, boo-hoo. Win your games. I don't care. I don't care what conference you're in. Win your games. Boise State is 11-1. Iowa State and Arizona State are both 10-2. They got a loss. They got an extra loss. I don't care. I don't care if you're in the Big 12. I don't care if you're in the Mountain West. I don't care if you're in the ACC. Win your games. We know that there's human input, human thought, and the eye test, and people that are determining the rankings, and fine, that's all good. But your record still has to matter. In my opinion, it does. And maybe it doesn't. You know, we saw that last year with Florida State. Maybe the record is completely irrelevant at this point. Florida State, undefeated season. ACC championship win. And they are ranked 6th going into the college football playoffs. And they completely, now obviously they then played a bowl game with Georgia. They end up getting, I'm sorry, it wasn't Georgia, but they play a bowl game. They get smacked around in that bowl game. Like, what does it matter? They deserve to be there. They'll probably use that ruling as precedent for the future. So Boise State, UNLV, that is a big game coming up. Winner is probably going to go to the college football playoffs. And then also at 8 o'clock, it's Tulane taking on number 24 Army. I don't think that there is a path for Army to get in. There's going to be a reseed on Sunday night where we'll get the final official bracket, but I don't know if Army's going to be able to jump. What they would need to happen is Army would need UNLV to beat Boise State, but then Army would need to be higher, would have to be ranked higher than UNLV. And I don't know if that's going to happen because UNLV would have to beat the 10th ranked team in the country, whereas Army would have to beat Tulane, who just fell out of the top 25. So I don't think that there is a pathway for Army to make the college football playoff this year, but it's definitely an interesting topic of conversation. We got to go to our next commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. We are halfway through the program today. It's been a great one so far. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more of the college football playoffs, the college football conference championship games. And then we'll get into the NFL. A lot of football coming up this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Segment 3 here on the Scoreboard. A reminder, this episode was recorded at an earlier time, so no phone calls will be had. No discussion, just me talking to you guys, having a good time. We're talking college football playoffs and college football conference championship games that are coming up. Here is a discussion that's been talked about more and more recently. It's, do you even want to play in your conference championship? I don't think you do, to be honest with you. Let's take SMU, for example. Saturday night is going to be the one of the 8 o'clock games. We'll have 2 8 o'clock games. It'll be Penn State and Oregon, and then Clemson, SMU. Clemson ranked 17, SMU ranked 8th. If SMU loses to Clemson, how far do they drop in the rankings? That is my question. Because that'll determine so if Clemson wins, we already know Iowa State and Arizona State is going to bump the 12th ranked team out of the playoffs. And then if UNLV wins, then the 11th ranked team is going to get bumped out. And Boise State will probably be out, by the way. If SMU loses, they're going to lose ranking. It's going to happen. They lost, right? They better hope they don't get blown out. They better hope they lose a close game. If they lose a close game, maybe there's a chance. And I wouldn't put it past the college football committee if SMU loses to drop them below Alabama. We already saw an ACC team with one less loss than Alabama get dropped below them. And here's where I have a problem. Alabama lost a competitive game against Vanderbilt. They lost a relatively competitive game against Tennessee, and then they lost a completely non-competitive game against Oklahoma. 24-3, they didn't show up. Miami, who's ranked 12th, on the other hand, their losses were both competitive, one to Georgia Tech, who's beat a couple of ranked teams this year, and one to Syracuse to end the season. And then you can also throw Ole Miss in there. Ole Miss pretty much got hosed. The loss to Kentucky, that one hurts. And a loss to Florida, obviously. But they were all competitive. They didn't get blown out. Somehow, though, 3-loss Alabama with that terrible loss to Vanderbilt and a blowout loss to Oklahoma is ranked ahead of Miami, ahead of Ole Miss, and ahead of South Carolina. And I think South Carolina also should be talked about in the why is it like this. Even though they did have one game that wasn't very competitive, it was a loss to Ole Miss. Now, here is where we have the problem. And I told you, I said, leading up into this, I was like, we're going to still talk about rankings. We're still going to talk about who is ranked where and why did the committee decide to do it the way they did it. It's very obvious to me. They're favoring the SEC. They're favoring the Big Ten. They're favoring brands. Alabama is a brand right now, right? It's kind of like the 2000s and Miami, the U. That was a brand. It's not like that anymore for Miami. It's not all about the U anymore. Now it's Alabama. It's Ohio State. Oregon. You could throw Oregon in there as well. They make noise. Penn State, Notre Dame, Alabama. They just belong in the conversation, right? Well, this is where the rankings have a pitfall And I don't know why, but a 3-loss Alabama team is holding on for dear life to these playoffs. Now, what Alabama needs to happen is they need Boise State to win their conference championship game. If Boise State wins tonight, I believe, well, Alabama wouldn't be locked in, but they'd have a better chance. Because then, we already know, like I said, Arizona State and Iowa State playing each other, that is going to knock the 12th ranked team out. The 12th ranked team right now is Miami. Okay, so no matter what, Miami's out. It's unfortunate. But then you have the other conference championship games where if UNLV wins, they knock out the 11th ranked team. And somehow if Clemson wins, if Clemson beats SMU for the ACC championship, then another team gets knocked out. And I don't know if Alabama's safe. Now, not playing, that's good. They're not playing, they can't lose ranking, but they also can't gain anything. Well, I mean, I guess they could if Boise State loses, they get above them. You know what I'm talking about. But it's going to be a mess. It is. I can't wait for Sunday night to see what these rankings look like. But we have 2 games tonight. A reminder, UNLV and Boise State. Tulane and Army, those are the important ones tonight. And then Saturday, we'll start things off with Iowa State and Arizona State for the Big 12 championship. The SEC championship will be at 4 o'clock. It'll be Georgia and Texas. Both of those teams, I believe, are locked in. I don't think it matters who loses. They might lose a little bit of rankings, but they're not going to fall out of the top 12. 8 o'clock, it's Penn State and Oregon. That's a 3 and a 1. That's going to be a fun one. And then maybe the most important one, the ACC championship. Clemson and SMU, 17 and 8. Man, that is going to be something. I'm telling you right now. If Clemson wins, chaos on Sunday night is going to pursue. I'm telling you right now. So we'll see what happens. Just a reminder for you, some of the teams that are locked in. I'll give you the top 7 because I believe the top 7 are definitely in. Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State, and Tennessee. Now, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee, they're not playing in a conference championship. They can't lose their ranking. Neither can Indiana. So I think the 9th ranked team, Indiana, I got to give it to them. 11 and 1 on the year. They had that one loss to Ohio State, and it wasn't a competitive one. We kind of saw the discrepancy between the two teams there, but they still had an 11 and 1 year, which is why they're ranked number 9. Not because, but they're Indiana, they're really not good, so let's rank them 17 or something like that. They won. They proved that they belong there. I thought maybe Miami would have done the same thing. I guess not. And I guess the team that really gets hosed in this whole situation is Army. Army being 10 and 1. And I get it. They're in the American Conference. I get it. But they only lost 1 game. It was to Notre Dame, and it wasn't competitive. A final score of 49-14. They almost did it, though. We're going to see one of these military teams make it into the playoffs one of these days because they're going to win a conference championship and they're going to be ranked just high enough to make it in. We're going to go to our final break of the day here, ladies and gentlemen. When we return, we're going to talk a little Carolina Panther football to wrap things up. Also, some of the games for the weekend. And as we always do, this day in sports history. Yep, that is coming up right after the break. But we do want to make sure that we talk about this Panthers game coming up against the Eagles on the road. It'll be in Philadelphia. It'll definitely be cold. And even though it's a 1 o'clock game, Philadelphia, the Northeast, it's pretty cold up there right now. I don't know if anybody's been checking the weather, but it's going to be a cold one for the Panthers. Now, I'm not too worried like I was about the Dolphins going to Green Bay and playing in the snow. It's not that extreme. But a good team in the Eagles, Panthers, can they continue the momentum? Can they keep it going? I think that's what we're all going to be focused on. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this. Welcome back. Final segment here on the scoreboard on this Friday. We'll have some fun with this one. Talk a little NFL. Panthers. We're done talking college football. I can't wait till Monday. That's going to be a fun one. It's going to be, man, Monday is going to be a football-heavy show. That's for sure. A reminder to you, this episode was recorded earlier in the day. I'm not live in studio. The information is accurate as of the time of my recording of this episode. It's sports, you know, something could break in the next 2 hours and, well, I'm still going to post this, so we'll see what happens. One of the things that's ongoing right now out of the NHL, the captain of the New York Rangers has been scratched for roster management purposes, putting the captain's future in jeopardy with the team. Now, this is boiling over from last year as well. Trouba did not play well as the captain of the team. And I believe right around draft time last year, they were trying to trade him. Problem is, Jacob Trouba has a limited no-move clause, so the team that he was going to be traded to was on his list of teams that he did not want to go to, and he did not lift his no-move clause. So Trouba ends up starting the year with the Rangers. They get off to a fast start, right? The Rangers started off the year very good, but when you look at the standings and their play recently, they have 13 wins, 10 losses, 1 loss in overtime. They are 4th in the Metro, and they are 4-6 in their last 10 games. Not good. And Jacob Trouba is at the forefront of that. He has the biggest contract at $8 million of people that they have been trying to move, and he hasn't been good. He's been a pretty bad defenseman for the Rangers recently. So a lot of drama going on social media right now as people are wondering where he might end up going because it's done. The word on the street for the Rangers is that Jacob Trouba has played his last game as a Ranger. If he doesn't get traded today, he'll probably be placed on waivers and they'll lose him for absolutely nothing. But hopefully Jacob Trouba can put the personal stuff aside and say, okay, fine, trade me to this team. Otherwise, he's going to end up in Chicago or San Jose or somewhere where he doesn't want to be. Because the way waiver claims work, if you don't know, is the worst team in the NHL gets to pick first. And if they say no, then it goes to the next worst team. So the order of waivers right now would be Chicago, Nashville, Montreal, Anaheim, and then Detroit at number 5. What I find interesting is 2 of the teams that have been linked to Trouba are Detroit and Anaheim, and they have pretty good standing here on the waiver claim. They're going to be the 4th and the 5th picks of a waiver. So it's interesting to me that they're thinking about trading for the player. It just shows me that Montreal, Nashville, and Chicago would consider picking him up off of waivers, and we've seen the Rangers do this. Last year, they put Barclay Goodrow on waivers after he wouldn't waive his no-move clause. And the very first team in the order of the waivers, the San Jose Sharks, said, we'll take him. So this isn't unprecedented by the New York Rangers. They're struggling right now. They are 18th in the NHL. They are nowhere near the top of their division. The best team in their division is the Washington Capitals, 36 points. The Rangers, 27 points. So a big discrepancy there. The top 3 teams in the Metro, including the Carolina Hurricanes, 36 points, and 35 points. And then it drops off to the Rangers at 27 and the Flyers at 27. So, like I said, big discrepancy between the top and the bottom of the Metropolitan. Completely opposite of last year. Remember, last year was quite competitive, where if you lost 2 games in a row, you could go from 2nd to 7th, just like that. Not as competitive in the Metropolitan this year. But that's a story that could change throughout the course of the day. If it doesn't, well, then this is where we stand as we head into the weekend. Let's move on from the NHL. Actually, real quick, the Hurricanes, want to give you an update on them. They are sort of struggling as of late, they've lost a couple of games that I don't think they should have lost. They lost to Seattle, which is tough. They got blown out by Florida. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, they had that home and home versus Florida. And in the second game in Florida, they got absolutely destroyed. 6-0 was the final score in that one. But the Hurricanes still sitting in a playoff spot, still sitting as one of the better teams in the NHL. When you look around the league, they are the 6th best team points-wise. Now, points percentage-wise, they are still the 6th best team. So no matter how you slice it, points or points percentage, the Hurricanes are currently the 6th best team in the NHL. Little bit of a struggle recently for them. They're playing 500 hockey in their last 10 games, 5 wins, 4 losses, and 1 overtime loss. I would contribute that to the goaltending. Like I've said, they need to do something about the goaltending, but I think they're going to sit around and wait for everybody to get healthy. Not what I think they should do. They've been doing that for 3 years and it hasn't worked. So hopefully the Hurricanes make a little bit of noise when we get closer to the trade deadline. Let's turn our attention to the NFL. Some big games coming up this weekend. Start with the Carolina Panthers game, who are still mathematically eligible to win the division. Yeah. 3 wins, 9 losses, and the Panthers mathematically could still make the playoffs. They have the 31st ranked offense, the 30th ranked defense, but yet they still are eligible. They're not eliminated. A lot has to happen. And I mean, more than probably will happen, because when you look at the standings, they are still last in the NFC South. So they would need to pass the Saints. They'd need to pass the Buccaneers and the Falcons. Good news is they do play the Falcons again, do the Panthers. But I don't want anybody getting their hopes up. This is still a team that needs to build a little bit more. And look, I'm not saying they should lose on purpose to get a draft pick. I think they've been so competitive in their last 4 contests where they beat the Saints, they beat the Giants, they lose by a field goal to the Chiefs, and they lose by a field goal to the Buccaneers in overtime. Those are competitive games. Stay competitive, keep developing. Bryce Young definitely needs to continue to improve, and he is improving. Now it's time to always be in a close game, right? The goal now should be every game needs to be close. We need to be in these games. Last year and early this season, Panthers were getting blown out. Remember week 1? Think back to the first game of the season against the Saints on the road. 47-10 was the final score. And then week 2, it didn't get any better. It was a 26-3 loss. But now we're having games where, hey, we actually won. Oh, hey, we just took the Chiefs to the last minute of the game and lost by 3. And then a division rival in the Buccaneers, you take them to overtime. And, unfortunate circumstances with the fumble and losing that game. Man, if that one would have went the Panthers' way, the playoffs would be a little bit more of a tight battle in the NFC South. I'd tell you that. They'd only be 2 games out of the NFC South with 5 games remaining on the schedule still, including this weekend's game against the Eagles. Eagles, Cowboys, Cardinals, Buccaneers, and Falcons is how the Panthers will end the season. We'll see. I'm not hopeful that they'll get it, but there's still the chance. There is still the chance. Some of the other games that are going on this weekend, a couple of good ones. Sunday night, you have the Chargers playing the Chiefs, 8-4 team versus an 11-1 team. I would consider this Seahawks-Cardinals game, a matchup between NFC West rivals, to be a very important game. That division is also still up for grabs. I have no idea who is going to come out victorious in that one. And then last night actually was a great game as well. Thursday Night Football produced a good game. Man. And it's been happening more often. It doesn't happen every single week, But Thursday night football has been getting better. You remember the Browns and the Steelers from a couple of weeks ago. They had that snow game. I'm not counting Thanksgiving as Thursday night football. I guess if you wanted to say the Black Friday game counts as a Thursday night football game, maybe. That's still a little bit of a stretch in my opinion. But the Lions, they kicked the game-winning field goal with no time left on the clock to move to 12-1, tied for the best record in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you have your Monday night game. It's the Bengals and the Cowboys. I think it's time to lay the Bengals to rest, unfortunately. I don't think that they're going to be able to overcome the deficit that they have. They are 4-8. Even if they win out, 9-8. Will 9-8 get you into the playoffs in the AFC? I don't think so. Let's get one thing from this day in sports history. It was on this day in 2018, Derrick Henry had that 99-yard touchdown run, which tied Tony Dorsett for the longest run in NFL history. He ended the game with a franchise record 238 yards. That was on this day, 2018. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. High school football, college football, pro football, whatever you're doing. Come back on Monday. We'll recap it. Until then, see ya. Oh